Just think of it as the rough draft of the podcast world. This is the Newbie Writers Podcast with your hosts, Damien Boat and Catherine Bramkamp. Hey, this is episode 216, the Newbie Writers Podcast, and we weren't on last week because our guest had to take their cat to the vet, I think, from memory.
I thought that was interesting that he had, clearly priorities, and we are underneath the checklist on take cat to the vet podcast. So,
yeah, I know. Oh, well, these things happen. Maybe you can write about it. I don't know. Anyway, so yes, we are back for another week, and we have a very special guest to talk about beer, of all things.
Yes. Beer and creating a magazine.
Yeah, but
that was the writing part. Swear to God, it was about writing.
I'm Australian. We'll be focusing on the beer. We
can do that too. It could be we can have the drunk show. That's fine with me.
But it's a light lager, mate.
Well, I'm not British.
Wow.
I do like my pints though. Brexit. We have Tom. Oh God, what's your last name? Dalldorf. Not to be confused with Dom Talldorf, the circus performer. No, Tom is actually at Catherine's house, which is a bit weird. We've never done that before. So, yes, fun frivolities will ensue. Now, before we get to Tom, I need to, I need to run something past you both and our listeners. Because I was at a hardware store yesterday to get some stuff for work. And it's one that I frequent. It's a bit like a Home Depot. I think that's what the closest thing I can relate it to.
Okay.
And this the lady that works there, I've seen her a few times, and I walked past her, and she did an about face and came marching up to me. And did one of those non-committal, "Hey, how are you?" Kept walking. She steps in front of me and she says, "Hey, I've been meaning to ask. I've seen you in here a few times. I need to say something." And I'm thinking, great, what's this about now? She says, "You look like that guy from the movies."
That guy from the movies?
That was my response. She says, "You know." She says, "You know, the tall one, the one with Ricky Gervais, that Stephen Merchant."
Oh, congratulations.
Right.
Now you're a star.
I said, "I have had that before." And she goes, "You must," and then she got really weird. She goes, "Oh, you must get that all the time." No, not really.
Not really, no, but thanks.
and then she's like, "Oh, look, sorry, I've had to get it off my chest. I'm sorry." And then she wandered off. I was a bit weird. I got my stuff, but it was early in the morning, and so they don't have all of like the checkouts open. And so when I came back around with my stuff, she was at the checkout.
Oh, damn it.
Damn.
What did she say? "You're back. Did I tell you that you look just like..."
No. Well, she goes, "Look, I mean, you're a spitting image of him." I'm thinking, are we doing this again? Like, I thought we covered this. And she said, "You must get it like 400 times a day. Like, people, have you ever had to give an autograph out?" I'm going,
oh my God.
I
Did you think of my son who looked like Harry Potter for like 4 years?
Well, I said to someone, "Look, I have had that comment before, but the guys at work think I look like Louis Theroux." And she just stopped to him. "Yes, I can see that." Like that.
Look what you've done.
Oh, crap. Now I've got two things that she's going to talk to me about.
Oh my God. And here's my question. What are you supposed to do with that information?
I need to hire a short, funny Englishman to walk around with now.
Walk around with you so that you could have the whole team look.
Yes. I don't know. It was weird. Because, I don't know. We hired a new electrician, and he did the same thing to me. You're standing there just staring, and he goes, "No, I'm sorry, but you look like Louis Theroux." And I said, "Well, that's funny, because I interview people every weekend." So I'm tempted to wear a scarf to work next week. Because I think, he tends to
be. Introduce you as a guy who looks like Louis Theroux.
I know, yeah, it's the same glasses, I think.
Change things.
And I'll say the rugged good looks, but that's just me. So yes, I thought that was strange. I haven't really been bailed up like that before. I've had people say you look like him, but yeah, I said to Sharon, "Do I look like him?" She's like, "No."
That's important.
Killjoy. Oh,
No, he looks way better than you, honey. Thank you. Thank you very much.
I know. It's like bring me down to earth. But yeah, it makes you wonder because I don't know. You're in that realm of Hollywood, Los Angeles, and all that. There must be loads of people that think they. Hey. What?
Most people like to not look like themselves. That's why they come up to where we are. So Northern California is where they go to be not recognized. And then if you do recognize somebody, your job is to be super casual about it and really cool. That's our rap. You should say.
And not ask for an autograph.
And not ask for an autograph. And then you go to Southern California, and then they know they're quote on, and then they'll be, yes, I am Julia Roberts. Thank you. Let me sign that. Would you like to give me money for that? Sure you would. Thanks.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so the upper half of the state, we are like way too cool to say anything to anybody.
Yeah, but
although we do talk amongst ourselves. Do you think that was so and so? No, I'm really sure it's not so and so. And then you dare somebody like you're in middle school to go ask. That's what we do. That's how sophisticated we are here.
Yeah.
You ask. No, you ask him.
I don't know. But then you get a lot of them people who are lookalikes, though, that think they look, I don't know, and then they make themselves try and look like someone, which is really dumb. I don't know why you do that. You have
Not so much around here.
You
tend to go for the real.
Yeah, I don't know. But
so let's talk about
beer.
Yeah. How do you pronounce it? Beer?
What?
Beer? What?
English? Beer?
Beer.
You know. How do you pronounce it? Amber liquid?
Amber liquid. Beer. Lunch.
Lunch? No, that's only if you have a Guinness. Oh, I could go with Guinness right now,
yes,
actually.
My mother Guinness. So one of the reasons I wanted to talk to Tom, who's right here, is to talk about starting a magazine and sustaining a magazine. And what made you decide to take on something as profitable, should we say, as a magazine?
Well, it started many years ago, but a young fellow and his wife from Canada in Vancouver, they were in the beer business. They were serving beer, and they wrote the little notes for the newspaper newsletter. Yeah. Okay. It was a place called Fog and Suds, and it's a chain around British Columbia. So anyway, they had a trip to California, and they were just amazed by all these little small breweries, and they thought, wouldn't it be cool to have a newspaper that just focused on the beers of California? This was in 1987.
So a nichier market than it is now.
Way niche. The sum total of breweries in California at the time they launched was 20.
Oh my gosh.
Your gosh had nothing to do with it.
Oh my goodness. So
it's very serious.
20 breweries.
20 breweries. So this little newspaper, it was a quarter-fold tab for those of you in the business, but one of those little newspaper
inserts. Almost,
right? Yeah. Right. Yeah. And they're very inexpensive to run, but you have to run a lot of copies to make it worth doing in the first place. And he begged the printer to run 5,000 copies of the first issue of California Celebrator, which he called it. Okay. And he said, no, you have to do 10,000 or we're not doing it. And he said, 10,000, oh my God, what are we going to do with that? So he got in his little Jeep Cherokee and he distributed them all over the state of California. That was his distribution route.
Oh my gosh.
So to all of
the car,
in the back of the truck. Yeah, back of the truck. And after doing that for about a year and a half, he didn't see a better model. And by that time, I had sold my my wine bar cafe where I was introduced to the beer industry, you know, and I was doing events and promoting food and wine tastings and that sort of thing. And I had been asked by a nonprofit to do a beer tasting, and then I found out that in California it was illegal to do a beer tasting.
Why?
Okay, what's that?
It was in 1988, and Anheuser-Busch had a nice little law in there that said beer producers and distributors couldn't talk about their beer or publicize them at tastings, and you know it's bud. You don't want to taste it, for crying out loud. Just buy it and drink it.
And it came from Anheuser-Busch to protect their monopoly, essentially?
Essentially. Yeah.
Just to cut to the chase on that.
yeah. So a friend of mine who was in the wine industry and a wine publisher, a wine writer called Jerry Mead. He was very well known in the 80s.
I was going to say, was his last name Mead?
There you go. So Jerry said, well, you need to talk to Manny Escobedo, who is the head of the ABC in California. And I did, and we talked, and he agreed with me that it was absurd that you couldn't taste a beverage that's roughly 6 or 7% alcohol, whereas the wine guys have 12 to 14% alcohol wines all day long and can do it. So equal protection. Anyway, so we got the law changed, and Brett started his magazine, and then things went south for him in terms of his marriage and the distribution model of getting in your Jeep Cherokee pickup truck, driving all over the state of California to deliver them. And I said, there's this thing called UPS. You can ship them. And anyway, so it went down in summer of 1990. And I took over.
2 years. So he did it for 2 years.
He did it for a year and a half, basically. Okay. So I took over and got my first issue published, and we up the print run, and we started expanding to the Pacific Northwest, which was just a huge beer-centric capital. Seattle, Portland. My God, the beers there were just amazing. And there was another publication up there called Cascade Beer News that also was getting into trouble and going down, and they begged me to take their circulation list. And I said, listen, I'd be happy. All nine people. And anyway, so it made it easy for Celebrator to start expanding, and then it was the Rocky Mountains, and then pretty soon we're a national publication.
But
so here we are today, sitting at your beautiful desk in beautiful Nevada City, California, with the sun streaming through the pine trees over your shoulder,
and the smoke coming over yours.
Oh my God, to the east, yeah. Let's hear it for Cal Fire. Those guys are the best.
So, what kinds of challenges, aside from picking up everybody who passed on this, because I think you're right, driving around is not a sustainable model.
No, it's fun the first time. And in fact, the first time, when I bought the magazine, I rode my son's pickup truck and drove all over the state of California because I wanted to meet the people who are taking the Celebrator and who are these people and make relationships. And I'm glad I did.
Okay. So
and that shows you that it's not just the passive, I print, you read kind of thing, but it's the active, I know you, and here's what we print, and would you please read it and tell me what you think?
Did you also, because just as you say that on a marketing basis, I would think too, did you make sure that when you started your tastings and more of your events, are your distributors automatically invited so that they come together for some of these events?
Well, yeah.
Did you work it that way so that they're always part of what's going on?
Right. That wasn't a big part of it until our 10th anniversary. And when we discovered that, by golly gosh, we've been alive for 10 years, we better have a party. So we did invite everybody. So people from Southern California, Northern, from Portland, distributors, brewers from all over came to celebrate the Celebrator's 10th anniversary. And our little pickup band, the Rolling Boil Blues Band, because beer is made at a rolling boil, right? So our band played at this, and it just became an institution. So every year since then, we've had this big
very cool
beer industry party, inviting everybody in.
Very cool. Now,
to celebrate.
Where do you hold this? Do you hold it at
different places? No, it's usually in Oakland or San Francisco.
Okay, easier to get.
Yeah, and that's where most of our peeps are. So.
Okay. Very cool.
So, but when you took it over though, didn't you have that first thought of, crap, I've never done a magazine before. What am I going to do now?
That thought had occurred to me from day one. All I was handed was a very small box full of mail and some bills.
Past due. Here you go.
And it was like, I have not done this before, and I don't know anything about publishing. I do like to write. I studied for a master's in political science and was familiar with research and writing. And writing is a very important element to printing. Otherwise, you don't have anything to say.
Exactly.
And the people who read it go, what the hell is that? And they're not interested in it. So yes, you have to have good writing, and you have to have good people writing for you. That's what we have today.
Yeah.
And if you look at our masthead, you can see the number of people from around the country and around the world who are contributing regularly to Celebrator to keep this thing going. But then as editor, I need to take all of their writing in and do what we call content editing, which is,
Yes.
A, is this going to get me sued? B, is it true? In that order, I believe. And then Pamela, God bless her, she puts it into English, which you may have heard of.
Once.
Yeah, there's some mechanics involved in here that
there is.
some of us were simply not aware of
So
when
you
we got
do
started.
the content editing. So you are literally like the senior editor, where you're just going through that big picture. Okay, you really can't call them crap because they're going to come back at us, and that kind of thing. And then you have an actual copy editor
and terminology in the beer industry, and it comes to somebody saying, well, this is a ale and it's actually a lager, or something.
You got to get it right.
Very basic. Yeah. So that's not Pamela's area. That would be me.
You.
Content. Then she makes sure that it passes muster in terms of the various books that we use.
Well, now, were you able to pay people when you first started out, or were you always had a budget to get
Not
them
a
in?
lot, but we always felt that if we just did it for the glory of having your signature, then we can't come back and say, this is a pile of crap.
Yeah.
Because then they go, well, what do you want? You're not paying me.
Okay.
So that's our business model.
Okay. That's interesting. So maybe we don't, people start blogs and magazines and everything else, and it is, and I write for free for for exposure.
Sure.
But then that means that whatever I write just goes in. I don't get kickback. I don't get anybody saying, well, this isn't very good, because you're right, that's not the contract.
Right. And also there's a huge difference between you writing all by yourself and then putting it out. And as well as I do that editing, you can look at the same thing 9 times and never see the glaring errors because you've seen it too many times. And what we had at the very early days was a newsroom. It wasn't a very big newsroom, but we had people in there. And you could run things past other people, or, hey, I'm working on this story. What do you think of this? And you get feedback. And that is so important to writing. So those of you who have a solitary life writing need to get feedback from people that you trust, or mom or significant other or whatever. Have them look it over.
Yeah.
I always do that. Anything that I'm sending out of my office, I have my wife at least look it over. She's not skilled in these areas, but she's fresh eyes. She hasn't been looking at this same damn thing for 9 hours. And anyway.
And also have the industry in her head. Sometimes I find it valuable to hand over, because when I have beta readers for one of my books, I hand them off to people who are not familiar with the genre, because what I want to know is, does the story make sense? Because if it's a bad story, it doesn't matter if it's science fiction or Western.
Right.
If it's a bad story, it's a bad story.
Absolutely.
So that can be, they can bring something to it.
Sure.
By not.
And the fact that our subject matter is beer really is beside the point. It's about writing.
Yeah.
And anybody who has ever worked in a newsroom knows what the dynamics of the newsroom are like. And there's a lot of petty rivalries and whatever too. But there is the sense that you're going to have to run something past an editor. And editors are notorious for just crap. You buried your lead. What the hell is this piece of crap? Do it again. And I need it by 3 o'clock because it's going on press. Yeah. And that's the dynamics of writing. So we have that to a degree. Now we are the newsroom. We are a virtual newsroom. So we have our graphic artist is in Belmont, California. Our copy editor is out in Pacifica. We have writers, as I said, all over the country. But anytime I want to, I can send to one of our people and say, hey, I'm working on this piece. Would you take a look at it and tell me what you think? Get some feedback. And then, then I send it off to Pamela. She puts it into English, and we send it off to Ken. He lays it out, and pretty soon it's a magazine.
So
oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say, do you, as a magazine, then,
Mhm.
do you often do sponsored articles? I see this occasionally if I do read a magazine. It's a pain in the neck.
No, we do not, and we do get asked, and you're into an area that, in terms of the ethics of journalism, is a bit sketchy.
Yeah,
but when you get into niche publications and publications that survive on an ad base, and they're writing about a particular industry, it's very common in fact, it's almost accepted that there will be advertorials. And I get to ask that all the time. And I say, well, thank you very much, but we're interested in your product, but we will taste it. And
be honest
and
about
we're not reviewing your package. We always get these PR people, look at our new package. Looks great. What's the beer like?
Yeah.
We're not reviewing packages. Well, what I mean.
Yeah.
So, and it's all about, the beer, really. So send us your beer. And no, we don't do advertorials, but thank you very much for asking. By the way, how much would you have paid me?
Just so you can cry.
Yeah.
No, I find it interesting how some magazines do it then when they do, because you'll be reading an article and you think, hang on, this is very, I don't know, Intel iCore based. It's very focused. And then right at the bottom in the tiniest print, you see this was a sponsored article. Or it might even say it at the front. Some articles in this magazine may be sponsored.
Yeah. Or the ones.
And they do have them in print magazines. They'll have them like a little bit on the top. They're getting smaller and smaller font. Yeah, so tiny font. This is an advertisement. This is that sponsor post. What I've noticed is, like, I get a feed for the wine industry. So it's like the industry that I'm working in right now, and so I'll get a curated feed from a gentleman, and next to the sponsored post, they actually have, and it's fairly large letters.
Is that Louis Pardue?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. He will put sponsored post. And what's interesting is, I look at that, and I'm looking at it to pass it along to our winemakers, right?
Right.
So I think I'm not passing along a sponsored post. No. So it's a little bit unfair. You're trying to kind of slip one by, and say, oh no, it's really a lot of information. It just happens to be all about our product.
Right.
But I'm not going to pass that along because that's not sincere.
Exactly.
So then, how do you come up with? Do you come up with catchy titles for your articles? Like, say a beer is bad. Do you have it like the Cat's Piss Weekly column?
How did you know that?
I've read your magazine.
That's phenomenal. My latest editorial is on Anheuser-Busch renaming their beer America.
Can you do that?
So the title of the article is America worthy of America?
But
there you go.
Can you do that though? I thought there'd be some restrictions to that. You can't call the product America.
Apparently, America is in the public domain, so there can be other beers called America. But when Anheuser-Busch replaces the Budweiser with America, what are you going to do?
Not much. Big.
That's just stupid.
And aren't they doing it for just the election?
Well, they're doing it for summertime, cashing in on 4th of July, which is the biggest beer sales day of the year.
Oh, well,
and then all the way on through the election.
Which we're gonna need a lot of beer.
A lot of beer.
We need a lot of alcohol in our election.
We'll need a huge amount of beer. Huge.
America or not. It's like, oh my God. Okay, so we're not going there. It's a painful
Yeah.
for our country.
That's right. We vote.
But you
we
try
vote
to come
today.
up with snappy titles, and that's usually my providence to come up with humorous and/or zippy titles for articles to entice the reader.
We need to make a Trump reference for any Mexican beers about building a wall around them.
Yeah.
I don't know. We vote.
Yeah, well, hopefully that'll get old fast.
Great wall of Trump beer.
The great wall. A beer wall.
Yeah.
Put it out of beer bottles or beer
think so.
cans.
Have you had to review any Australian beers? And don't say Foster's.
Well, you said Australian beer, and Foster's is made in Canada
Exactly, but it's dreadful
for the
anyway.
domestic market. For the American market.
Are there breweries in Australia? I mean,
Oh,
Yes.
yes. Oh, absolutely. In fact, one of my earliest beers, you may recall this one. Do you remember the one with the koala bear on it that was called Sparkling Ale? It was called, what the hell was it? But it was, it was a really, Cooper's.
Yes. Cooper's
Sparkling Ale with a koala bear on it.
How
Cooper's
adorable.
Coopers and West End are in my state here in Adelaide. I drive past the West End Brewery
Okay.
every day. So, but yeah, Cooper's is massive. Cooper's Pale Ale is it.
Anyway, and then in New Zealand, I don't know if you consider them human or not, but they also.
Well, they're wannabe Australians, yeah.
But they have a beer industry that is so structured that the little guys literally could not sell their beer in distribution, so it all had to be out of their breweries. So you had to come in with your jug, your growlers, and get your fresh beer. But that seems to have worked for New Zealand, and Christchurch has quite a few small breweries now. But anyway, it's catching on all over the place.
A lot of pubs, and I think Tasmania's got is it Bogues Brewery? Anyway,
But we have written in Celebrator. We have people, writers who travel, and we had a guy who went in. Oh, I wish I could remember my geography now, but he is in the south, or actually for you it'd be north, northwestern part, and he said he drove for like 6 hours on a dirt road to get to this town that had this spectacular brew pub in it.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Writing about stuff like that is what we like to do.
Yeah, a lot of pubs here are now doing their own little micro breweries. So you can go there and you'll see the taps, and it'll be all the Coopers, West End, that sort of thing. And then there's their own at the end.
Right.
Yeah, we have 2 in Nevada City alone.
Right, but they're very good. And sometimes some of those places are done as an afterthought, hey, we sell a lot of beer, let's make our own, make more money. And the beer sometimes falls a bit short of what we consider
ideal.
Great beers. Right here in Nevada City, we have 2 small breweries, one of which won the sweepstakes medal for its Dortmunder export style called Dead Canary, which is a wonderful beer once you get past the feathers. And then we have another one called Three Forks, and it has a double IPA or Imperial IPA. That's the big guy, and it is called Dynamite. After they have another one called Malakoff. So they're named after locations that are found up here.
And stuff that happened.
Stuff that the mining,
rush,
So Dynamite double IPA won a gold medal in a statewide competition for a tiny little brewery that doesn't make enough beer to sell its beer off site. You have to buy it there on site.
But that also can be their brand. I mean, it's kind of like what's in Santa Rosa with Pliny the Younger.
Oh, Russian River.
Russian River.
Yes.
It's you can only get Pliny the Younger by standing in line.
Right.
Going with your growler. And I don't even think they do growlers anymore. I think it's just you just get 3 bottles.
For 3 weeks, this town of Santa Rosa is
inundated, so to speak.
The traffic comes to a stop.
There's blue porta potties all around the block because people stand in line forever to go.
And then Russian River has to make sure that when you come in, you have a certain amount of time to eat and drink and make merry, and then Mary gets tired and moves on, and then you need to go away because they got people outside that need to come in. Yeah, so it's an amazing thing. But you remember the days in the wine industry when Joseph Phelps would release its insignia, Silver Oak would release a new release, and people would be lined up on Oakville Crossing for miles, to the point where they would bring out donuts to give to the people standing in line, coffee, who would come in and who would buy the new release, sometimes with cash.
Yeah.
And Justin, who owned the winery, told me that there were days when they would have 2 armored car pickups a day.
Oh, wow.
For their new releases. Now, this doesn't happen in the wine industry for everybody.
No, but like
and it doesn't happen in beer either.
If you're a good cult wine, Costa Brown does that. They have their pickup parties, and you can only get a case. You have to be on the list. And
William
then-
Sellium in Sonoma,
Yeah,
Pinot Noir, screaming it. Well, there is no release day. You have to be on the list.
You have to be on the list.
Yeah.
So it's just an interesting marketing technique.
Mhm.
To say we are so exclusive, and then
Right.
all the hipsters line up and say,
Right.
well, we're special too. So if we're special, then you're special, then we have something in common. I think
Yeah.
that's what a lot of it is.
Is the beer industry then becoming a bit elitist like the wine industry has been? Like, are we moving away from just sinking a can of beer and crushing it on your forehead?
Like John Belushi and
Yeah.
Animal House.
Yeah, I like that movie.
The answer to that is sadly yes. And I don't know if you saw the cover of the New Yorker about 6 months ago.
Oh my God, I love that.
But
cover.
the hipster, this was a Brooklyn Park Slope moment. But you had the hipster waiter, in his flannel and hat,
Ponytail.
and beards. Everybody has to have a beard. That's
beard.
required.
Yes.
Do good, as they say. And he was holding this bottle and showing it to the two people who were sitting there, who were looking at it as though it were Ichezo or Domaine de Romani Conte or something, And
It was a
so many,
ale.
yeah, and so many, it was a bottle of beer,
Yeah.
and so many people in the beer industry were offended by this. And I said,
Oh,
don't
no,
you
that's
realize
funny.
you've made it
Mm.
when beer can be treated like wine?
It's true.
Yeah. Would you consider this amusing little ale from Portland?
March.
Yeah.
March was a
The
good
bird,
month.
the bird drove slow to the distributor to put extra age on it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it has definitely changed. What have you seen with your writers? Have you seen has the emphasis shifted? Did it go from just like, okay, now we're just going to talk about how the beer tastes, to what is the lifestyle of beer? What is the background of the
Yeah,
beer?
like a
Get
good-
to know your beer.
Like a good psychedelic drug, it's always about set and setting, isn't it? So we always try to put the beer in context.
Okay.
And we're not just writing about the beer. We do something called new releases, and we do something, our blind panel tasting. And there we are literally writing about the beer and describing what we're tasting.
Okay.
But otherwise,
With that language,
all of the articles, if you turn to any page, not that page, if you turn to any
Turn to
page,
the ads. Whoops,
yeah. No, I wish I had more ads. I mean, there was a whole lot of Southwestern Sipped. Here's our buddy Mel Pearson. He actually works for the United States Air Force. He's a civilian, and he lives in Arizona, and he travels in Arizona and New Mexico frequently. So he will write, but then he'll take a trip. So this one here is Mel writing his column called Southwestern Sips, and he is taking a trip to Texas. And he's writing about Austin, Texas, and all the cool
Austin
breweries there.
yeah.
And Austin has some amazingly wonderful breweries and brew pubs, and also multi-taps where you can get lots of different beers.
Oh, okay.
And there's a place called Flying Saucer, and it's in Houston and Dallas, and I think a few other places. And it's a big multi-tap place,
Cool.
So yeah, beer's happening all over the place, and we try to put beer in context. It's not just about the beer, or as the late Don Younger, who is the sainted publican of the horse brass in Portland, Oregon, used to say, "It's not about the beer, it's about the beer." And you go, Don,
Okay.
are you gonna have another beer or what? Yeah. So he came up with that, and he stuck with it. But that's been
That's
his.
cute.
And it's sort of a mantra, if you will, for the beer industry.
So on
Yeah.
Friday afternoons in the office, well, I don't know, it's an Australian thing. Sometimes like, oh, come on, let's end the day with a beer. You go to the work fridge and grab one. How does that work in your office? Is there so much selection? Is it like, oh, this is ridiculous, just get me a water?
I don't think I've ever said that, but I do drink a lot of water. But seriously, I don't drink during the day. I'm working, and I'm going outside, and I'm trying to keep the lawns from dying, and all kinds of different things. But anyway, yes, at the end of the day, a beer is a beautiful thing, and yes, we are blessed with a lot of beers because people send us their beers in hopes of getting good reviews for them. And there are some beers that we just choose not to review because it's really not that great. And we've got so many more to write about that are
That you could just,
really
like,
significant.
not say
That, yes,
anything,
yeah.
so you can just
But
let it
anyway,
go.
we do have quite a little larder of beer, so you must drop by next time you're in Nevada City.
He's a great neighbor.
Yeah, it would take me a long time to get there. But what do you do then, like from a editor publisher point of view, when someone does submit that, I guess, that request? Hey, look, here's a beer. I'd love you to review it. You all sit around, you try it, and you think, hang on, I'd rather clean my drains with this. How do you then let them down, or do you just not contact them? But if they then contact you, what's your answer when they say, how come you haven't reviewed it yet?
Oftentimes that does happen. And the answer to that is, your beer is got some problems, and we're surprised you haven't addressed that. But
Okay.
but if you want to, either it's infected, which is a very bad situation, or it's just insipid, which is a little harder to address, because to the people who are making it, it tastes good to them.
Fabulous.
And from the wine industry, there's this little expression that they use called cellar blind. And that is people who have just been drinking their own stuff for way too long. They don't get out and they don't taste other stuff. And it tastes great to them. And the first time they take their beer and or wine to a competitive tasting and taste other people's, they either go, "Ooh, that's really hoppy," or "Ooh, that's got flavor," or whatever.
Damn,
and then other
flavor.
people taste theirs and go, "Good luck with that one, mate."
Heavy water.
So yeah, and again, we have a limited number of pages. The pages are limited by the number of ads we have and the number of articles to wrap around them. That's my.
So have you ever had any like backyarders send in their homebrew, and you've just gone, hang on, that I shouldn't drink that. That might kill someone.
No, we can't. We can't really do that. And the answer, and
Because they can't sell it.
they can't sell it. You can make beer in America. In America, you got good beer to drink. That was Randy Newman. That was my worst impression ever.
Okay.
And
And we heard your beer.
you can make your own beer, 200 gallons a year. But you have to keep it on your own premises. They've just now passed laws where you can take it to your beer club or take it to a judging, but you can't sell it, and you can't. You can literally give it away to your friends at your house. But that's the limit. Yeah, to beer and wine. And I used to run the Alameda County Fair wine and beer competitions. So we had it all the time.
Yeah.
And that's where I learned what really bad beer can taste like. I mean, there are things where you open them and it spews all over the place like a 14-year-old cotillion. But anyway, and you go, good Lord, we have the DPIM rule. Don't put in mouth. Just the smell alone is enough to make you go, I'm not going anywhere near this. And then every once in a while you get something that is absolutely phenomenal. And since I've been doing this since literally the early 80s, and both for the home brewers, home wine and beer, and for the commercial wine and now commercial beer. So you get to have a sort of palate where you can appreciate how much better beer is these days coming out of breweries. Even on day one, we have a brand new brewery down here in Auburn, California, and it is called Crooked Lane Brewing, I think. And I was amazed at the quality of the beer that I tasted there, and they hadn't even been open a few months.
Right out of the gate. Huh?
Yeah, and
It doesn't happen
usually
very
it takes,
often.
you've got new
Yeah.
equipment, you've got the ingredients, you're not really sure what you want to do. It takes a while to get stuff dialed in.
Yeah.
I never review anybody that hasn't been open for at least 6 months.
Okay. Good.
I'll go there, give them encouragements and all that sort of thing. And we did the same thing for
Down here, Tree Forks.
Old Republic.
Old Republic.
Yeah. He invited us down, Tom McCormick.
Smart.
Yeah, other people taste his beer. You wanted honest feedback, and you have to do that in the
Yeah,
industry.
okay.
And I was prepared to go.
Bummer, you got to drink.
Nice try, but and it was phenomenal from the beginning. So
That's
yeah,
wonderful.
yes,
That's not.
doesn't always happen.
We all have stories of wineries where we just
Right.
they're just starting out, and you're just like, okay, pretty much reminds me of cough syrup, so we might want to work on that a little more.
Right.
Yeah, we've had some bad.
Right, and then they're looking to make money from their first release to cover the bills.
And that's not really realistic.
And no, a lot of times it should never be put in bottles. It should be either bulked off, or then you get a wine doctor or beer doctor to come in and doctor it. And
or filtration, which is what my company does.
Okay, so you need help, and you need input. And a lot of people who try to do it by themselves, I mean, that's a great mistake. Oh, the guy who goes out and starts his own winery or brewery and does all the work by himself and everything, gets no input, and then you taste the first product, and she is so proud of it.
Standing in front of you when you're drinking.
Right.
That's bad.
Well, yeah. You try not to get any on them, when you go.
Throw it out.
Yeah. Anyway.
So do you accept then articles from around the world? Let's say if there's someone in England going, oh yeah, I'd like to do a review on the microbreweries in my county. Could they send that to you? I get pitched a lot from people, and I've got a woman who somehow or another got a trip to Germany, and she's looking for a publication so she can say, that she's got a publication. And for me, it's a question of room. I have got my regular writers that I've got to take care of, and they like to be in every issue.
Sure.
We only publish 6 times a year, which is the gestation period of the gerbil, I believe. But so with that, you can only get so many people in so many times.
Yeah, definitely.
So having other people, but if the article is compelling or comes from a region that we haven't covered in a while, or fits in, like our next issue is our beer and travel issue. So this opens it up to a lot of possibilities. But even our own writers will say, hey, I went to England. Hey, I went to Australia. I just got back from Italy, and oh my God, the wines in Italy the beers in Italy are spectacular. We know the wines are significant. But the beers are phenomenal.
So if somebody, and I think it's a good question, if somebody is they're a new writer, they're just starting out, they want to get into a publication, yours, anybody else's. But here's the challenge: it's, you've got your stable, you've got the systems, you've got the editorial calendar all laid out. How would they get in? How would they break in?
The hook in a pitch ought to be, hey, my name is so and so. I have a writing background. Here's a couple of links to stuff I've done. Okay. I am either I am going, or I have a article on. So I'd love for you to look at. And as an editor, I'm delighted to take that, look at it, give them some feedback.
Okay. All right. Pretty easy.
But you don't want to have somebody say, hey, you want a story on Germany?
Yeah. Okay. So
what?
Not helpful.
No.
Right. Okay.
Put it into context. Tell me why you're the best writer since. Yeah. Well, he's very short on the adjectives, I would say. But he did get around. But in terms of travel writing and spirits writing, I mean, there are some people out there who are very, very good. And but to write it at that level, you just want to bring your personal experience that you have. And travel writing, I love to do travel writing because you just got back from Spain, so you know what it's like. You've been there, you've experienced all these different things, and if you can channel the wine beer part of it in there putting it into context of where to stay, where to go, and what time of day is the best time to go, and
so helpful. Really helpful.
If you want to do that Hemingway moment, drinking Fino in the plaza, well, the best time is like 4 in the afternoon.
I learned about bulls, and you don't really want to run with them. I'm saying, but uphill is more treacherous than downhill. So uphill, they do really well uphill because their forefront, their 2 front feet are lower than their back feet. So uphill is good. Downhill, they start losing control. So if you can get uphill, get over the top. Pomploma it's got uphill and downhill. You go downhill, then you have a shot at not getting gored to death.
Do you know why they wear white?
So you can see the blood better.
Yeah, so you can see the wounds.
Yeah,
So the
'cause that's
medics
more exciting.
can get, well, so the medics can get to the hurdy part
Faster.
quickly. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm
I
afraid you
decided-
took a horn up the bone, mate. Very bad.
My mother,
God.
I thought, no, the 81-year-old is not running right now.
No.
We're not doing that event.
Make a good
Thanks.
YouTube video.
There is
GoPro on
one.
your head.
There is one.
The GoPro on the bull.
Mm. A bull with a
Bullseye
goat.
view.
I think PETA might have a problem with a GoPro on a bull. Let me think about that.
No, not if they're stabbing the player. I don't think so. Poor bulls.
I know.
Poor bulls.
I know.
So
Okay, so where can
Uh-huh.
people find Celebrator magazine?
Well, it's usually available in breweries and brew pubs and bottle stores and that sort of thing. But it's available for a short time. Like if it's released in August, then by the middle of August, it starts getting difficult to find. Then you have to wait until the next issue.
Are you on
Best
the-
way, of course, is to subscribe for
Okay.
a tiny little $19.95 a year. You can get Celebrator sent to your very home, so you don't miss a
How
single
easy.
issue. Right. That's third class mail, so that sometimes takes a little while too. But anyway, that's our distribution model. So people actually buy it from us in the sense that they'll pay us to get a box of Celebrators and their listing in the Celebrator hotspots.
Okay.
So that defers the cost of distribution from us to them.
Very cool.
Yeah, that's right. And then people go to their place and say, "Hey, did you get a new Celebrator?" You know, it's something in
It's
an age
another
of
draw.
electronics. And yes, we
Yeah.
have a web page, celebrator.com, and we have a Facebook page, which is Celebrator Beer. So Facebook.com/Celebrator Beer.
Celebrator.
And then, and so people can call it up on their iPads and on their, but I find that there's nothing more charming than reading print publication in a pub with a pint in your hand. And if you spill it, it's newsprint and it absorbs beer like no iPad I've ever seen can absorb beer. If you know what I'm saying.
Perfect.
Yes, that's what I thought.
So yeah, are you on Twitter as well? The Twitter?
Oh, yes, I am.
Oh, what's that?
And I know my Twitter feed because
He's going to look it up. That's how we're going to do this.
Yeah, well,
What are you? And how do you get to you?
yeah,
we go.
with Donald Trump dominating the whole thing.
Oh, I don't pay any attention. I can't stand it. I'll just drink instead. It's like, just don't want to know. Don't want to know. I'll just have the Huffington Post tell me what I should know.
Yeah.
I'm good.
HuffPo. So at Celebrator Beer.
You had to look that up?
Well, I don't tweet myself, mate.
Oh, God.
I know. It's pathetic, isn't it? You're just amazed I have a Twitter.
Yeah, we are. We're very
At
impressed.
Celebrator Beer.
At Celebrator Beer.
Uh-huh.
No,
And Instagram.
I've never been more amazed to know that Catherine's got a Twitter account and knows how to use it more so.
Yes, I do. I'm giving Twitter a break because I'm not seeing any kind of benefit from it. So
Yeah,
I'll be
no,
honest.
I find Twitter to be
But I am
the land
getting-
of the blowhards.
Yeah, I am getting back into Instagram. So and
Yeah.
and if you want to follow me on Instagram, are you beer? Yes,
I forget what I am.
Dalldorf.
I have no idea what I am. You should look me up.
Well, thank you for being on. We should do some other little bits and pieces before we head off.
Got our typical things. You want to start with a prompt?
Yeah, we could do a prompt.
Okay, so the prompt is, what does your favorite drink say about you? Take the characteristics of that drink and apply it to you or to a character. Will changing the drinks change who you or your character is?
Well, I'm a Scotch and wine drinker, so I like my beer, but
Scotch and wine drinker.
I've had to stop.
What do you like for Scotch?
Dimple.
It's a blended.
Yeah, it's a nice Scotch.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm not saying blended disparagingly
I like blended drinks.
because I drink what Christopher Hitchens amusingly referred to as Mrs. Walker's Amber Restorative. And that's Johnny Walker Red. That's blended.
Yeah, but you can also strip paint with. I don't know.
And
That's
and
true.
clean your brushes a bit like Retsina from Greece. You know?
Oh my God, that stuff
is nasty.
Oh yeah. It's like it would take care of every every organ in your body. Strip it out.
But yeah.
Yeah, there's some local drinks I don't go for. Some I do. Some I do. I had poncha when I was in Portugal, and it's delicious, and will send you into a diabetic coma in about 3 drinks. It's 1 part fruit juice, so lemon juice and orange juice, muddled with 1 part or a third honey and a third of rum. So I just think
Good Lord.
and I saw them pouring the honey in, and I thought, oh my goodness, but that is cut with the rum, so we're good. So they pour in the rum, mash it all together, and I took a drink. I thought, oh, this is really good.
See, those things get invented at 1 a.m. in someone's house.
In cold places,
And
this is on
usually-
top of a mountain,
And
really
usually it's
cold.
all you have.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's everything
So you
they
put it
had.
together
Yeah.
and, oh, this is great.
Right.
Brilliant.
And by the 3rd one, you're ready to start and open up your own place.
Right.
We should
Genius.
sell this. This is great.
Mm.
Get a license and do it.
And then by 3, you're trying to find the strawberry schnapps because you've got nothing left.
Right. Always a bad sign, too.
Good Lord.
Anyway,
Okay. Do you want to do a tortured sentence or word of the week?
we'll do a tortured sentence. Next time, don't put the wrong faces on the right slab. Tortured sentences. That comes from all of those hipsters with their man buns and beards.
We're going to be telling the beer's out. Sorry, I have no more beer.
It's not necessary. What? All the people in Melbourne look like they're Ned Kelly. Anyway.
We didn't say they were original. We just said they were hipsters.
Anyway. So,
Okay, so this is from one of my classes.
right.
God,
Children's literacy levels are dropping because there is a lack of understanding regarding non-verbal cues, which are being replaced with inaccurate ones. What?
exactly.
I don't get it.
That's why I put it as a tortured sentence. I get this stuff all the time.
So there's non-verbal cues, but they're inaccurate. How do you know if they're
Well-
inaccurate? There's nothing there to hear.
I was going to say there's no such thing as a nonverbal cue when you're talking about literacy, which for the most part is about reading.
So how would you fix that? You wouldn't, would you?
No, I asked them to rethink their thesis. It's like, you may want to unpack that a little more and give me a couple of different sentences.
Do you just get the red marker and just go, what? Question mark?
No. Sometimes I'll pull it out and I'll say, you might want to think about this sentence in a different way. I try to be really nice because, these are grown-ups and this is what they're trying to figure it out, but damn, sometimes they really don't figure it out.
And do
A
they?
nonverbal cue is no talking in line.
That's right. That's the worst dad joke I've heard this week. God, let's do a word of the week, shall we?
Let's do.
This comes from the dictionary of obscuresorrows.com, and new episodes will be posted every other Sunday on YouTube and testtube.com. I don't want to go to testtube.com. That sounds weird.
Okay.
So Catherine suffers from. Do you now?
Yes,
Onism. The awareness of how little of the world you'll experience. Imagine standing in front of the departure screen at an airport. I do that every week. Flickering.
yes, you do.
Wondering why it's not flickering over. Flickering over with strange place names like other people's passwords, each representing one more thing you'll never get to see before you die. And all because, as the arrow on the map helpfully points out, you are here. Yes, right. That's nice and depressing.
Thank you. I thought so.
But you've gone to more places than most.
Yeah, I do. I do pretty well, and I think what's interesting is that every once in a while my mother will get all maudlin, and we'll be on our way to, let's say, Frankfurt, which can be a scene, and she'll be standing there looking at the departures, and she'll say, "Oh, we could go we could go to, Madeira, or, we could go to Portugal. I mean, she'll come up with other things to go to. And I was like, no, our flight is to Frankfurt so that we can go to San Francisco. Damn it. But every once in a while, you might do this while you're fixing the flickering of the signs in the airport. He's got that's one of his clients. You might say, wouldn't it be great to just have a credit card and say, let's go here?
No.
Let's go here. I would love to do that. I'm all over that.
No, sounds horrendous.
I'm not there.
I do find it interesting that if one of those signs goes down, ours don't flicker, they're LED screens now, but you can tell seasoned travelers, they get into such a routine with doing it. I was standing there on the phone waiting for someone to log into the sign remotely, and I see 3 people looking up at a completely blank sign.
Yeah.
And I feel like going, there's nothing on there. They're just looking, and then they look at their phone, and they're looking up, and then they walk off.
Wait long enough, it'll come back.
Well, yeah, in an hour.
Don't underestimate jet lag. We really will stand in front of blank screens. It should come up here anytime.
Yeah, it's like that, and I feel like saying to him, if you turn around, there's another one behind you that's working.
Oh, good. Did you tell him that? Because sometimes we need help like that.
Not that tweet, but I did have someone come up to me the last time, and he's like, "Hey, excuse me, I'm waiting for my mother. She's coming from China." And I said, "That's nice." What?
Were you supposed to help him with something?
And he's like, "You work here, right?" I said, "Well, no, not technically." "Oh, well, I'm just wondering if someone can assist her getting off the plane." I said, "Mate, I can't help you with that. You have to go and talk to someone else." He just hung around. He's looking at me like, "Are you sure? I think you're giving me a bum steer here."
Oh.
Maybe I've got that helpful Stephen Merchant look. Anyway.
Tom, you for coming.
Oh, you're welcome.
I know that you need to go do a beer tasting, so
I have people arriving,
adios.
so I have to go.
Okay.
Great pleasure. Thank you so much,
And
both of
we'll
you.
talk soon. Party later.
All right.
Party later. Get the beer pong out.
Yep. Get the beer pong out.
What is with beer pong? I've never played that game. Sounds silly.
Yeah, he's got a whole tasting gig, and we may or may not see him on the 4th of July, and we're all terribly busy. What can we say?
Oh, so you got 4th of July coming up. What, Tuesday?
Yep, on the 4th.
Monday.
It's actually Monday. It's a very unoriginal name, because instead of saying Independence Day, instead of saying, oh, it's the American Independence Day, like Canada Independence Day, or Anzi Day, or everybody has better names, and we call it the 4th of July, which is a rather self-explanatory date.
Well, we have Australia Day, and some people have been coining the term Invasion Day, which isn't technically true. We didn't invade. The whites didn't invade Australia on that date.
No. I believe you were dumped.
Yes. Yes. Anyway, but a politician came out and said, anyone who's caught using the term Invasion Day should be smashed in the face with a chair.
Oh, I love your politicians. You're much more direct than us.
It's like, well, that escalated quickly. Anyway, we have the fun task of voting today.
Are you going to stay in the EU?
Ha! We have no choice. No, we have ended up with another prime minister. We seem to be going through them like flies lately.
Yeah, you have. You've been moving them right along.
Yeah, it's like, oh yeah, don't like you. Next.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, that didn't work out. Next. That didn't work out. Next.
Yeah, so there's a thing out. You can take a survey. I'm not sure if it's a government-funded survey, but it'll help you decide on who to vote for based on your choices. Like,
really?
Yeah. But here's the problem. Like, I did it. Sharon did it. Mine is 50-50.
Oh, not helpful at all.
It was like 50%. No, it was 49% for this party, 49% for that party, and then it broke it down like 1% for that party. Okay, this is not helping me whatsoever, and that's the problem. Nationally, all the polls are at like 49% per party. So
we probably won't have that problem.
I don't know. You might get surprised. It's all gone a bit quiet on our news, actually.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Has everyone run out of steam? Has Trump run out of things to say, and has Hillary forgotten her email address or something?
Congress, yeah, exactly. Congress is out on vacation for this week because it is the 4th of July. And unless they do a bunch of feel-good, rah-rah stuff, you don't get a lot this week. No one's paying attention. So they save up for when people are paying attention. But in September, it'll ratchet up in a really serious, awful way, and we'll have to deal with that. Oh, man, I'm not looking forward to it.
Oh, we're just tired of the, as they call it, the rhetoric. Just painful politician speak. It's just shit.
Yep. I agree completely. Really? People believe that? I mean, the Britex thing was amazing when I started hearing about what was promised and what is, the impossible was being promised to so many voters. And they said, oh, okay, and they voted. And then now they're discovering that's not what they voted for at all.
I know, but it is funny to see a big international whoops. That backfired.
That totally backfired. Not a lot of critical thinking went into some people's choices.
I felt like it was very much like a divorce. Like, fine, if you don't like it, then you could just leave. And then they just leave. Oh shit! Actually, hang on. Didn't really mean that.
Didn't really mean it like leave.
So I just need my space. Anyway,
it's like, oh, now I got too much space. Okay, can we read things?
Yes. All right. Well, that'll do it. We will say that, and I know we said we weren't going to do this, but we are going to take a bit of an extended break from this show. So it's been a pleasure up until now. But there's time to have a little bit of a break, get refreshed, get some new guests, possibly. I don't know. So we'll
get a new thing, get a new groove.
Yeah, it's probably get a new theme. It has been 5 years. Oh,
yeah, I know.
4.5.
Yeah, I've done pretty well.
Yes. So we're going to go off, do our own thing for a little bit, and see, because I can't say until next week we'll see you then.
Right, because it won't be next week.
No.
But we will return.
We shall return. I feel like I need to play some sort of like Back to the Future sort of orchestral theme.
Yeah.
Anyway, it is what it is. So yes, Catherine, it's been a pleasure up until now, and then we'll see you soon.
Okay. We'll see you soon.
All right.
Your book starts here on the Newbie Writers Podcast.